Welcome to our exciting new video tutorial where we'll be showing you how to integrate OpenAPI's API into your SwiftUI app with the help of a powerful GitHub repository. In just a few easy steps, you'll be able to harness the full potential of OpenAPI's advanced language processing capabilities and take your app to the next level. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into the world of OpenAPI and SwiftUI. And wouldn't you know it, this intro was written by ChatGPT through OpenAI's API. As you can see, this is my simulator. I asked it a question and the intro has been created for this video. So let me just show you what we are going to build out today. It's this chat application in iOS with SwiftUI. And let's just have here like what is SwiftUI, for example. Let's just send that away, and as you can see, it's just typing it away. And you may take a look at if it's really what SwiftUI is. Let's say what is core data, for example. Let's send that also, because this video is sponsored by SwiftUI Camp. Did you know that the average development time for an app is 7 months? And did you know that the hardest tasks in app development are persistence and backend? And also, did you know that 80% of bugs are actually UI bugs? Now imagine a framework that reduces development time by 70%, persists data in one line of code and syncs it with the backend automatically, and has 0 UI bugs. Well, you don't have to imagine anymore because that framework already exists. It's called SwiftUI, and you can master it in 6 weeks in SwiftUI Camp. Only 3 seats are left out of 5. Enrollment closes in 24 hours. Grab your 50% discount link in the description. So this is what we are going to build out, and we are going to start off from scratch. Well, first of all, you need your API key. Let me just show you where you can get that. So just go to, and by the way, it's at store.rebeloper.com/habit tracker edition. Make sure to check out the link in the description. So go to OpenAI.com and select under the menu developers and then API reference. Okay, and just log in, make sure that you are logged in, and then just go to view API keys. Maybe that's manage API keys if you haven't created one just yet, and then just copy out your API key, and you are going to use it wherever I'm going to tell you. Of course, these API keys should be secret, so I'm not going to share mine in this tutorial, and I'm just going to add it from this API file that I have created right over here. Okay, so we need to create our models first. So let me just create a new file right over here. And we want to distinguish between the 2 chat owners, I would say. Let's just create our message owners file. That will be an enum. And let's name this message owner. And then let's have a case for user and assistant. Okay, so the user is actually yourself, the assistant is ChatGPT. And this, I'm calling it user and assistant because we are going to use a really nice library. It's ChatGPTSWIFT from Alfian Losari. Hopefully I didn't butcher his name right over there. You can take a look at this GitHub repository. It's at github.com/Alfian Losari/ChatGPTSWIFT. We are going to add this to our library, and this to our project, and this library is naming those 2 chat users, the user and the assistant. So it's not me or GPT or whatever, it's user and assistant. Okay, so while we are at that, let me just copy and paste my link into our Swift package dependencies. Let's just go over there. Let's just add that, and let's add that package. It's just going to fetch it in just a few seconds. There will be some additional submodules here, but that's just it. Most of it are from Apple Swift. Okay, So yeah, there we go. And let's move forward. So we have our message owner. Next, we want to create our chat message. So let's create a new file. And this is the actual model. Let's create that. Let's import SwiftUI because we are going to use the identifiable protocol so we can add all of these chat messages into a nice for each loop, for each view. So let's create a struct named a chat message, and this would be identifiable. There we go. So let's add automatically our ID over here from UUID and UID string. Okay, we want to have an owner, and that would be of type message owner that we have just created, and then some text, you know, whatever text we or GPT is going to send us back. So let's just have that as a string. And also, as a convenience, I'm going to create a custom initializer right over here. I don't care about the ID, you know, that's already been set. And for the owner ID, I'm going to give it a default value of user. And therefore, because that in some cases I'm not going to show, you know, I'm not going to use the owner property because I'm going to use the default one. I'm also going to add an underline for the outer property of this initializer for the text inner property. Okay. And yeah, that's it for our chat message model. Next up, it's time to create our view model. Now we are inside the content view, so yeah, let's just create a content view model. But of course, you may name this whatever you'd like. Most importantly, it has to be an observable object. So let's just name this content view model. There we go. Because it's an observable object, we need to have SwiftUI imported, and this will be a class with a small c there, content view model of type observable object. And here we are going to add our published variables that are going to be linked to our content view, and also our logic where we are going to send the message to have a response. And finally, we are also going to add our API. So first thing is to add or rather import here CHATGPTSWIFT. Okay, let's create our API. And that will be ChatGPT API with an API key. And this is the place where you want to add in your API key. It is a string, you just create it and copy it in there. Yeah, by the way, if you are signing up here, you are going to get $5 for free. During the testing of this application, I just spent 0.0, like 2 cents. Yes, that's 0.02 dollars. So I'm just going to add it here from our API dot key, you know, just to not share it in this tutorial. And then let's add our published variables. So at published var, first of all, we need a message that we are going to use to send our request. Next up, we want to create another published variable called chat messages. So chat messages, and this will be an array of chat messages, and currently it's an empty array. And finally, we want to know, are we waiting for the response? If we are waiting for the response, we want to present some sort of a progress view. So let's have that also as a published variable. So published var, not bar, var is waiting for response. Okay, and the default value is false. Okay. I'm going to add in here the function name that we are going to use here, but the actual implementation will be done a little bit later on because I need to also build out the UI first. So let's have a function right over here, send message. Okay, let's add that message over there, or rather, yeah, we are going to use this message, so we don't need that. It will be an asynchronous throwing function because I absolutely love async await, and of course handling errors with the throwing functionality. It's easy as it could be. Okay, so that's our content view model. Now it's time to link this up to our content view and build out our content view basically. So let's have this as at and by the way, we are done with the files. Let me just have a little more room right over here at private state objects. Yeah, private state object. Let's have a view model right over here, and that will be a content view model. Okay, so we have access to our view model. Let's build out our interface, our UI right over here. Well, first of all, I'm going to remove all of this. And as usual, I always start off with a vertical stack because, you know, we are on an iPhone. That's what we usually do. And I also want to make sure that the scroll view that I'm going to add has a proxy so we can scroll to the last element that we added to our chat. So for that, we want a scroll view reader that's going to encompass our scroll view. So let's just type that out, scroll view reader, and let's have a proxy right over here, and let's have our scroll view. Okay, what do we need inside the scroll view? Well, we are going to add a for each for all of those chat messages, but we are going to also have that as a lazy V stack. So, you know, it's not going to load all of it, only the things that are visible on the UI, well, the screen. So let's have a lazy V stack. And I'm going to have also some spacing. So let's just, a lazy V stack. Let's just have option and hit return right over there. Alignment, the default of center will be fine. Spacing 16, I found this to be really nice. Pin views, no pin views because this is just one list of chat messages. And here I'm going to have a for each. As I told you, from the view model, we are going to grab our chat messages. And inside the content, we are going to have a message. And right over here, let's create a message view because otherwise this will be really convoluted. We already have this nice pyramid of view, which, it's really hard to read. So let's have our message view created here. I'm going to pass along the message. Okay, and yeah, this doesn't exist, so let's create a function of message view. It's requiring a message of type string, and it's going to give us back some view. And currently let's just add in here a text of empty array. Okay, so we're not going to have any issues with that. Let's see what's going on here. Why do we have this issue? So yes, this needs to be not a string but a chat message. Okay, let's just see that all of these errors will go away. Array, right? Okay, so what I also need here is some sort of scrolling to the last chat message. So therefore, I'm in the lazy V stack. Before the for each, I'm going to add a color. So I'm going to have a color dot clear with a frame of height and just 1. And I'm going to add an ID for it, and let's name this bottom. Okay, so this color at the bottom of our lazy V stack, at bottom of our scroll view, has an ID of bottom. And I'm also going to add on the scroll view, whenever this chat message is going to be, appended to, I want to listen to it. So I'm going to add an on receive. So on receive a publisher, the view model dot $, and chat messages. And I found out that if I just go like this, it's just going to be really not a good user experience with the scroll. So I'm going to throttle this publisher. So let's just throttle that. for 0.5 seconds. Throttling means that we are going to wait 0.5 seconds. The scheduler will be our run loop of main, and latest set to true. Okay, and we are going to perform well. Actually, we need our chat messages right over here. If the chat messages is an empty array, we are not going to do anything. But so let's just guard against that first. So if chat messages is not empty, let's return right over here. So if it's not empty, we are going to animate that scroll down. So we are going to use a with animation, and basically we just go proxy.scrolls to, and what is the ID? Bottom. Okay, so it's going to scroll to the view that has an ID of button, and because this is below the for each view, it's just going to scroll all the way to the button. Okay, next up is to add our message input. We are going to add a text field and a button. So here is our scroll view reader. So after that, we want to add a horizontal stack. So we are going to add a horizontal stack right over here because we have our text field and the button. And let's start off with the text field first. Text field, and I'm going to use the new one with the axis. It will be really, really nice. You will see in the example. So the title will be message, 3 dots maybe, and we want to bind that text to something, and we already have that set up. So it's we need to bind $ViewModel.message, and that's a publish variable that we are going to use when we are going to send that message. Okay, the axis will be .vertical, so we have multiple line support on this text field. Let's add a text field style of rounded border. And then what we want to do here is whenever we are waiting for the response, we actually want to have a progress view, and otherwise we want to have that button. So let's have that if else statement right over here. If ViewModel.is waiting for response and else, we want to add the button. So right over here, we are going to have progress view, and then let's just have a padding on it. And for the button, we are going to have it named send. And then for the action, we're going to go and create a function in just a second, send message. Okay, and let's just copy that out. And after the message view, we can just add that func send message. Okay, and let's just add a button style of a border prominent. And also on the horizontal stack, I'm going to add a padding. Okay, this will look really, really nice. Now it's time to create our message view because this is the more complicated way. So view in this part of the tutorial. So let's just jump right into it. So instead of text, we actually want to have horizontal text because we are going to push those chat bubbles to the leading or the trailing part of our view. So let's just start typing that out. So let's have a horizontal stack. So first of all, what we want to do is check if the messages text is empty, because if it's not, we are not going to display here anything. So let's just go if not message.text is empty. Then we are going to do, let's just add a vertical stack right over here for now. And also we want to push this chat bubble that we are going to create to the leading part or to the trailing part. And that could be easily done with a spacer. And of course, I want to have a minimum length of that spacer. So first, I'm going to check which user am I. So if message owner equals dot user, then we are going to have a spacer right over here on the horizontal stack with a minimum length of 60. And otherwise, if this owner is actually the assistant, I want to put it after our or a vertical, our vertical stack, because we are inside the horizontal stack. So that will make up for the pushing to the leading and trailing part. Also, I'm going to add a padding here, dot horizontal on everything, because I don't want to this to be pushed to the side of our device. Okay, let's talk about that chat bubble. So first of all, I'm going to create a text, and it's going to contain our message.text. And let's have a foreground color. And again, I'm going to play around here with the owner of the message. It will be a ternary operator. So if the message is .owner, and I'm always checking against the user, because we have only two cases, so a ternary operator will work perfectly for this case. So let's have that as white, and then otherwise it will be black. Okay, that's our foreground color. After we added our foreground color, we also want to add a little bit of padding, maybe 12 over there, and then have a background color. So the background, we are going to have another ternary operator. So message.owner equals .user question mark. And if this is a user, I want to have a background of blue and otherwise a gray one. So let's have this as a blue and otherwise dot gray. And also I'm going to have an opacity on it, so 0.1. Okay, so that's it for the background. Next up is to have a corner radius, so dot corner, come on, corner radius, 16 I found to be really great. And then I want to add the actual owner to this chat bubble. So I'm going to create an overlay. So overlay, and I'm going to use the new alignment API. So let's hit Option and Return. Again, for the alignment, I'm going to check who is this message owner. So the owner, if this is equals to .user, I want to put it on the top trailing and otherwise on the top leading. Okay, on the content, well, we are just going to have a text of the owner, and that comes from the message.owner. And let me just double check if we made that chat message, the message owner. No, we did not make it as string, so we want to make this as string. And then on the owner, I can just go and have a row value, and I'm also going to have it capitalized. Okay, just a small UI tweak right over here. Let's have a foreground color of dot gray, and then a font of dot caption. And also I'm going to move it a little bit up because I don't want to put it actually on the chat bubble. So I'm going to have an offset of y right over there, y of -16. Okay, and that's it. So we have our message view created. Now it's time to add the functionality to the send message function whenever we tap on the send button. Because we are using an asynchronous throwing function on the view model, we want to put this into a task and then a do catch statement. So let's have our catch right over here. Currently I'm just going to print out the errors localized description, but of course you should just put this into an alert if you are inside production. So let's try await view model dot send message. There we go. That's an asynchronous throwing function. And actually we are done with the content view. Finally, the last stretch right over here inside the content view model, we are going to implement the send message. Now we need to do this like in it's two layered. First of all, we have the UI. We want to make sure that the chat messages are actually, the published variable is updated correctly. And also what we want to do is interact with the ChatGPT API. So let us just create our first user message, because when we tap on the send message, well, on the send button, we are going to trigger the send message, and we want to create that user message. So let's create our user message. Let's have a little bit more space over here. So user message equals, that's our chat message. And, you know, because the owner by default is set to user, I'm just going to hit return right over here and select message. There we go. And that message comes from this message right over here from the publish variable. Great. So we have our user message. We are going to append that to the chat messages. So append user message. Great. We want to clear out our text fields, so we just go message equals an empty string, and we want to start the progress of fetching, like requesting an answer from ChatGPT. So I would say is waiting for response equals true. So now instead of that send button, we have a progress view. Okay. So we are going to do like, you know, fetch, and after that we are just simply going to set is waiting for response equals to false. Okay, so how do we actually fetch? Well, we just create a stream and append those lines from the stream onto our actual chat message. So let me just start this out, and it will be really straightforward because we are using this nice GitHub repository. Okay, so first of all, let's create a placeholder assistant message. So let assistant message equals chat message. And this time I'm going to use option and return. And this will be assistant, and the text will be an empty string, because, you know, that's where we start off. We are also going to append this to our chat messages. So append assistant message, and then we are going to create a stream. So let stream equals, it's an asynchronous forming function. So try await API dot send, and there are two send message functionalities on this API. You could just choose the one with the text, model, system text, and temperature. By the way, those are predefined default. You can just change them. Please go ahead and take a look at OpenAPI's documentation for what those are and what options you have over there. But basically, here on the send message with the text, you are just going to wait for a response, and that will take quite a while. Maybe, you know, you could just present that progress view right over there. But the more user-friendlier UI is the one with the send message stream. So let's just use that one. And we are going to add in here our message. And then we are going to wait for the stream to give us back some lines. So we are going to go through all of them and append them to our assistant message. So let me just type this out, and you will see it's really straightforward. For try await line in stream. So we're just going to grab each and every line on the stream as they come in. So let's see. If let last message equals our chat message is last. So we want to make sure that, you know, we'll at least have an assistant message. Then we're going to grab its text. So if let text equals last message dot text, because we want to grab and append to it. We're going to then create a new message. New message equals our chat message with an owner of assistant. And for the text, we're just going to go text plus line. So we're just going to append its text. There we go. Okay, and finally, we want to replace that last message. We just go chat messages and chat messages dot count -1. So that's the last one. That's the index for that. We just go new message. And that's it. Now we have appended. So fingers crossed I built out everything correctly. Let's build and run. And let's see how this is working out. Build has succeeded. Great. Let's see this. let's type in a message, or what is Swift UI, for example. Let's send that away. Thank you, you may assist. Oh, thank you. How may I assist you today? Okay, first of all, we want to fix these. So we want to have the class at main actor. Let's build and run again. And let's have this again. What is Swift UI? Okay, let's send that away. Thank you. How may I assist you today? Oh, I can see that the message is emptied out before we are even sending it. So let's just move this down after the stream. Okay, let's build and run. And let's see this. Okay, let's have what is Swift UI? Okay, let's send that away. There we go. We have what is Swift UI. And it's populating it really nicely, and you saw that there is that progress view. What is core data, for example? Let's send that away. Of course, if you want to have more data to your question, you can just do so. Let's just wait for this to finish, and let's see. You are a senior iOS developer. Tell me, what is Swift UI? Okay, you can see now we have these 2 lines of code, and it's just generating it really nicely. Now, we are not persisting these questions and answers inside our project. So if we just build and run again, you will see we are done with a blank slate. And what better way of learning SwiftUI with core data is SwiftUI Camp. Go ahead and check it out. The link is in the description for a 50% off. Seats are limited, only 3 seats left, and the link is available only 24 hours because we are starting the cohort in 24 hours. So make sure to check out the link in the description. And if you want to check out if AI is going to replace your job as a software developer, go ahead and check out the video. It's right over here.